Here's my take. You come in this world, and for most of us, your only concern is, how do I survive? Some become very good at surviving, and their next concern is, how can I have pleasure? Some people, few, stop and say, what's life about? I'm alive. That's the only thing I know. Besides the fact that I gotta make money and pay bills and have to deal with the madness of this world. But if I withdraw, it's at night. The madness is asleep. Kind of, sort of, depending on which city you live in. But you understand what I mean? So what is life about? Why am I alive? Where was I before? Where will I be after? And what is this life about? That question is fundamental to the human experience. And that question has been removed from the common, everyday conversation, from culture itself. There's a reason I'm not getting into this. Without an answer to that question, well, what's the point? So because we're looking for something, obviously, every person is looking for something. What they're looking for, some people say happiness. What's happiness? Some people will say love. Yeah, but what's love? So everything they're doing is to try to find whatever they're calling love, happiness, whatever it is. Did you find it? Well, when it's now you're 40 years old, in your 40s, and you've invested so much resources and you didn't find it, for sure you're going to be perturbed. And when you're going to come at the end of your life, you're going to be extremely perturbed. But the issue is that you've never asked yourself the question or found the answer, well, what's life about? And during the years that I'm given, let's say I have 80 or 100, let's say 100 years. So what am I supposed to do with these 100 years in order to succeed at the purpose of life? So for me, this is the basic sound. It's the drone. That's the only thing that really matters. But your modern person, the modern human being doesn't give a fuck about, cannot hear that sound, doesn't want to hear that sound. In fact, does everything not to know about that sound, right? And they live here. And in that realm, all they have is a bunch of sufferings and symptoms and try to compensate to carry on. And then they invent themselves a purpose, and they invent and create all kinds of stuff to try to keep them going. But they're not plugged into an actual answer, which infuses an actual meaning to their everyday life and makes that I'm actually going towards some realization. And upon the end, I'm not dying, I'm graduating. So if you don't have that, what's the purpose of life? It's a true answer, not the one you invent. A genuine answer that now gives you a reason to do this or do in your everyday life. You have a reason to do this, a reason to do that, besides survive or have pleasure. Then all these actions, after you spend so much energy, when you look back, you're like, what's the point? It's meaningless. Of course you're depressed. Doesn't matter at what degree you're depressed, of course you're depressed. Of course you want to drink. Of course you want a form of pleasure to take you away from how you really feel. But the real issue is because you don't know what life is about. And therefore you didn't invest your life, small l, to achieve the purpose of life, small l. So this is my sum up in summary. I mean, yeah, but the moment we talk about this, you lose 99% of people because they don't want to deal with that, because it's an infinite ocean of what the fuck. Once upon a time, religion was there to kind of tell you or point you to the direction of those answers. Because I'm not the first person or the last person who will ask this, and all the wise men of old, I did say men, spoke upon this. But the fact that they speak about it doesn't mean that I know, but they're pointing to the direction. All these so-called holy books are pointing to a direction. They're trying to point to you that, listen, life has a purpose. The fact that I read a book doesn't make it that I know. But at least through the book I can think about it. But I still have to figure it out. But even now that's being removed. And only one thing is being promoted: pleasure. And pleasure is now associated to happiness. So all the people are trying to do is survive to get to that place where they can have as much pleasure as they want. So of course, when you wake up at some point, no matter how much pleasure you're able to garner for yourself, whether it's a little bit or a lot, depending on how much money you made to buy pleasure, you still have fuck all. And you're not satisfied. And the anxiety inside grows. Listen, y'all understand this? Doesn't matter what's your level of education. At some point you had an exam. And for sure, unless you're a fucking geek, you didn't want to study. So you say, I'm going to do it tomorrow. If it's not an exam, you gotta hand in some kind of paper. I'm going to do it tomorrow. It's a big ass paper, not like a one-pager, right? It's a big paper, required the whole semester in university or something like that to write the paper, and you're just like, it's like 5 days, and you're not even write it. Every fucking passing day, the anxiety increases. Because you know, inside of yourself at a deep level, I got a deadline. Deadline. That means it's the end. And I haven't done what I'm supposed to do. So I feel a growing anxiety because I'm going to have a problem. So instead of solving my problem, I just go get entertained some more to try to forget about my problem so that I can have pleasure forgetting my problem and hoping that in that way the problem disappears. Then the deadline comes and guess what you're going to get? That's what you're going to get. Fuck all. So what's the difference with that? This analogy, use the law of correspondence and apply that to life. Well, obviously there's a deadline, and obviously this is a form of school. What are you supposed to learn? And now if you spend your entire life not knowing that you're in school, or what is the actual nature of the school, and what you're supposed to learn, and so that you can hand in your paper, then when you get to your 40s, that anxiety is starting to awaken because you're now, in your 30s, you're too much in fire, too much in the, let's go. In your 40s, there's this form of integration. Now you're starting to realize, oh my God, the deadline's in a minute. Uh-oh, uh-oh. So now there's a form of anxiety now that's awakening that you didn't feel a couple of minutes before. In your 30s, in your 20s, and certainly not in your teenage years. You didn't feel that anxiety at all. Now I have the anxiety that the deadline is upon me, and I don't even know the basic question of what the fuck is life? So what's the purpose? To know the purpose of life doesn't mean that I accomplished it. Right? So I don't even have the answer to the basic question, let alone I didn't even fulfill it. Let's say I know the purpose is to build a house. I don't even know how to build a house. Let's say now I figured out that I have to build a house. Now you still didn't build the house. At least you're in a better position. You know what you're supposed to do. Maybe you'll get a D. Probably not. But you understand what I'm trying to say. So when we speak about life, everybody wants to remove life from the equation because people are uneasy with it because it obliges you. I don't like the word oblige. It presents you the infinite grandness of it. And your average person doesn't want to fucking deal with this because they want to feed a hamkar, meaning I, me, I'm special, which means you have to remove life so that you're special. In the light of life, you're not special. It's not you're worthless, it's just you're special means there's nothing else. You're it. If you remove special, it doesn't mean you're worth nothing. It means you're part of the whole. Okay? So your average person doesn't want to deal with life. And then you have all these philosophers where this is your life, who has ever seen through the mysteries of let's go masturbate with quantum physics. Let's just do that. Oh yeah, let's like break open the invisible of nothing and just like get lost in our 3D. Wow, nothing everywhere, forever. Yeah, you pray to that. I'm going to have to insult you. I'm going to hold myself back. I'm trying to bring a different tone in this series on the chair with the shirt. It's very tempting. Anyways, let me go on. So the point of what I'm trying to say is that, well, obviously there's a deadline and nobody wants to address the subject of life because it's so big and it seems we've gone so far away from life that to just hint towards it creates anxiety because every time you hint towards it, it reminds you, oh, I got a fucking deadline and I don't even know where the school is. I don't have the books. I don't know how to read. What the fuck? Fuck it. You know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to go get high so that you forget about it. And you just don't realize that, well, work is getting high, running after tail is getting high. All these things that modernity offers us, for the most part, is nothing but getting high. Once upon a time, people have always worked. There's nothing special about working. You do a job, serve people. In return, they offer you time in the form of a currency so that you can use it to save time to get something in return. This is not a novelty. Look at what work has become. It's become a religion that defines a man. That doesn't define a man. That's just what you do. So now people use work as a diversion from reality to get high and to build their character so that they can be greater than life. Literally, you're greater than life. That's the goal. That's what these things are used for, to be greater than life. So in other words, you use this to get high. High means you get elated, or you get, I suck, I fail, and you grind and you're like always suffering because you can never, what am I going to do? It's going to be my turn, right? You're still high as fuck with that kind of emotion. To get away from the deadline. So the modern world has gone so far away from life that just hinting about it makes people anxious. So now we're slowly removing the books that kind of hint towards it. Kind of. Not even well, but kind of. Anyways, that's my humble take on this. But for sure, if we take in consideration the only thing that really matters is the basic soundtrack of life itself, and you never for a second stop to consider it, and to consider it is not sufficient. To go on a retreat for 5 days where you have some mushrooms or ayahuasca and you're like, consider life, it's good for you, but that's nothing. This is supposed to be every day all the time. That's supposed to be the basic drone of your everyday life. Not a thing that you think about once in a blue moon. It's the thing that imbues your action. Your actions come from there. Because every action that you do is to fulfill the purpose of life, so that when you get to the deadline, you're like, here, you present your paper to whoever is going to come, but I assure you somebody's coming. Here's my paper. I'm ready for my examination. Once you'll notice, some of you will notice, there was a show called The Wonder Years. It was a fucking wonderful show with Kevin Arnold. And at some point, Kevin Arnold had a math teacher, and he loved his math teacher, and he got into a fight with his math teacher, and his math teacher died, so he never got to say, I'm sorry to his math teacher. And so anyways, because he was upset, you'll see the point. It's just for my pleasure. So when he did the exam, because he was mad at the math teacher who was tutoring him, he intentionally failed the exam. So the math teacher, when he died, hid the exam. So when the teacher died, the directors who was going through the exams are saying, Kevin, your exam is not there. So he had to redo the exam. So Kevin, in order to repent for his love for his teacher, did the exam, and when he handed the exam, he says, no need to correct it, it's an A. I fucking love that sentence. So when you're going to be on your deathbed, and you're going to present your final report, you better say it's an A. That's what I aspire to. It's an A. Pass. You understand? Pass means pass. Go to the next. Pass. It's a passing grade. That means you go to the next. Otherwise, repeat. So anyways, that's what I have to say about that.